From the Big 12 to the Big 10, now to the ACC. Yesterday, I called Clemson versus Troy. Got my call sheet right here. I felt like it was a good opportunity to give you guys my sense of what the heck's happening with Clemson. Before that, though, let me give you guys a stronger take. I think the ACC is on track to dictate the college football playoff and how it all shakes out. And here's what I mean. The ACC looks like they could have a path towards getting 3 teams in the college football playoff. It also looks like the SEC is on a path to beat each other up, right? All the teams that we've seen so far through 2 weeks, some better than others, obviously, but no one really laying eggs. Offenses that are all capable, defenses that have good athletes. If that happens and the SEC beats up on each other, maybe there's a world where it's not a clear-cut 4 teams that get in. Maybe you said the same thing about the Big Ten. And last year, the drop from the 4th team in the Big Ten, Indiana, to the 5th team, whoever that was last year. What was it? Iowa? USC? I forget who it was. My point is, it was a very clear line of like, oh, of course, Big Ten gets 4 teams in. And then I know last year, the SEC was thinking, hey, maybe we even get 5 teams in. But if the ACC, let me walk through the scenario for you. If Clemson takes care of business, even if Clemson loses one more time, and they're a 2-loss team with one of those losses being LSU, Clemson's in. Miami looked the part. Carson Beck looked the part. I was not as high on Carson Beck this whole offseason, really the past year, as much as other people. He's proven me wrong. If Carson Beck is something, and that Miami team is where they were last year, Miami could be in. Florida State looks legit. Not only from an ACC standpoint, but, as a top 10 team in the country. We'll see. I do think their offensive strategy is one of those things where it's vulnerable to show up on a work day. And if that defense has, their defensive ends playing well and they're, playing with their hair on fire, you can shut down that offense. It's very much built to like the run game's got to be working and the legs, the quarterback legs have to be working. But that's a tangent. Florida State, legit. I love Pitt as a sleeper team. I liked SMU, but I kind of thought they were poised for something like that happened last week. I don't know if, they lost a lot last year. I really like Louisville. Louisville showed up so far through 2 weeks. And then the 4th team that I'm missing is Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, big game this week. Georgia Tech versus Clemson. That's a line that I'll talk about Friday night on my live because you got Clemson favored 9.5. That's a lot of points going up against Georgia Tech. My point is, though, that crop of 4 teams, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Louisville, one of those teams could get in. This is not all those teams. All 4 of those teams are a notch better than where they were last year. Florida State, obviously. But I say that in the context of like Louisville was a good team last year. Georgia Tech was a good team last year. Haynes King and his health makes me nervous, and the pass game makes me nervous long term. But if you get 3 ACC teams into this college football playoff in a scenario where the SEC is beating each other up and the Big Ten potentially is beating each other up, or just one of them, you don't need both of them, just one of them, that could lead its way into a 3rd team in the ACC getting in. Why that matters is because right now there's all sorts of conversations around automatic qualifiers and whether or not the SEC should get 4 and the Big Ten get 4, which then would basically mean, it would lock the Big Ten, it would lock the Big 12 and the ACC to the point where lock them in the fact that only one of those conferences would get 2 teams in a given year and say goodbye to the thought of even getting 3 teams in. But it would light a fire under, if that were to happen, the ACC getting 3 teams in this year, it would light a fire under the SEC and the Big Ten's ass to lock in automatic qualifiers. Because they would be looking at each other saying, what? We're beating up on each other all season, and then over there, ACC, they're able to get 3 teams in? Yeah, that ain't working for me. And right now, they're kind of battling over that. I forget which side prefers which. I got to study up on that, but my point is almost the ACC, you might not want 3 teams in, because if 3 teams get in, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to wake up and potentially change the structure of the college football playoff to prevent that scenario from ever happening. You almost want 3 teams in after the long-term playoff structure is set in stone. Keep an eye on that. I feel like the ACC has a pathway to getting 3 teams in, and in fact, 2 weeks in, lots got to happen for sure. But between Miami, Florida State, and Clemson, those teams look legit. And on that note, got my Clemson board right here. Troy was up 17-3 versus Clemson at halftime. I did not see that coming whatsoever. I thought it was going to be Clemson waking up after a sluggish second half versus LSU, and that did not happen. I still think Clemson's on a path towards getting into the CFP. I have concerns about where they're at offensively, but I love their defense. Their defensive front seven is legit. Secondary-wise, their safety spot is the one area that gives me concern. In our game, Ricardo Jones got hurt. He's one starting safety, and then Khalil Barnes, the other starting safety, was already hurt. That safety group is one to keep your eye on if you're tracking Clemson. Love their defense. For Cade Klubnik, the analogy that I was using last night, again, I'm going live in the booth after every game I call this season, so check it out. My kickoff time will change, but last night we were live from Death Valley. The analogy I would use is this Clemson team feels like, when you get like a bottle of Coca-Cola and you like shake it up, or like it rolls around in the bag or like the backseat of your car, and you get out and you're like gearing up to open it up, and you just know like you just need something to break the pressure and the whole thing's going to release. That's how this Clemson offense is. I feel like they're so in their heads. And in the fourth quarter, Cade Klubnik had an absolute dime on a post route to Bryant Wesco Jr., and that could be the throw that potentially like gets them back on track and settles them down. Their offense has been terrible. I think that Cade has the ability to get back to being, a top offense in this country. I've been slow to roll on him being the best quarterback in college football. To me, right now, the 3 best quarterbacks in college football are Garrett Nussmeier 1, John Mateer 2, and Lenora Sellers 3. I do not put Cade in that level or in that bucket, because this year he's missed some reads. He was late on some throws in the games that I had in the open, and then I posted a short for him. Go check it out on TikTok and YouTube Shorts of 2 plays that he missed in last week's game versus LSU. There was 4 more I could have broken down, but he's missing too many opportunities. And then I don't know. So far, he has not shown to me that he can win you a high-level football game from the pocket with his right arm only. I think you need that to be the top quarterback in college football. John Mateer, I think he's done that. Garrett Nussmeier, obviously done that. Lenora Sellers, he's getting there. Lenora Sellers is a better athlete than Cade run game-wise. And I probably put Cade 4 right behind those guys. I'm higher on Arch Manning. That film last week was good. His arm's like making me nervous and whatnot. But Clemson, defense is legit. Schedule super manageable. Like, I'd almost make the take that I think the pathway to the playoff is more straightforward for Clemson than it is LSU, even though LSU has beat Clemson. I just think Clemson, they're going to be able to wear on the middle road of the ACC teams, just because they're in their own tier when it comes to front seven talent. Offensive line wise, dude, Troy's defensive line held firm, and Troy's offensive line held firm too. But that's a good Sun Belt offensive line. But I just think Clemson has the ability to beat you in different ways. I think their offense ultimately wakes up. But this week, that's one of the top games in college football, on the road versus Georgia Tech. I don't know where I stand with that line. Clemson favored 9.5. That's a lot. That is a lot of points, and we'll see if Haynes King is active.